My wife sent me a text saying, "I'm disgusted, we're done," just because of my Reddit posts. But when she realized I was secretly paying $174,000 for her medical school, her whole world fell apart. I am 31, and for the past 4 years, I believed I was building a solid marriage with Jessica, my wife 29F, who was pursuing her lifelong dream of becoming a doctor. From the moment she received her acceptance letter into medical school, we celebrated together, laughing, hugging, and believing that we were starting a journey that would define our future. But the harsh reality soon hit when it turned out that Jessica did not qualify for enough financial aid, and her parents, despite having the means, refused to lend a hand. I still remember her father's words clearly, "You're married now, it's your husband's responsibility." In that moment, I realized that supporting her dream would fall entirely on my shoulders, and I accepted it because I loved her and wanted to see her succeed. My job in software development paid me $95,000 a year, which sounds good on paper, but once taxes, rent, utilities, car payments, food, and insurance were accounted for, there was barely enough left to cover our everyday living expenses. Tuition alone for Jessica was $58,000 per year, an amount that could easily sink any household. So I did what I believed any loving partner would do. I worked nights, weekends, and every spare hour I could find, taking on freelance jobs to earn extra income. That money went straight into a separate account that paid her tuition directly. Jessica thought it all came from my regular salary because I handled our finances, and she never once asked for details. She simply assumed that I had figured it out. I sacrificed sleep, leisure, vacations, and time with friends, pouring my entire energy into building her future while neglecting my own. The irony is that I documented much of this freelance struggle on Reddit. I posted about exhausting clients, debugging sessions at 3 in the morning, and even joked about being married to medical school debt. To me, it was harmless venting among strangers who understood the world of programming and freelancing. There was nothing inappropriate, nothing personal about Jessica, just the honest grind of keeping everything together. But 3 days ago, everything exploded. I woke up to a cold text message from Jessica that read, "Found your Reddit account. I'm disgusted. We're done. I'm going to stay with Miranda." I stared at my phone in disbelief, scrolling through my own posts to see what could have sparked this outrage. All I found were innocent complaints about work and a single joke about debt. Yet somehow, to her, it was enough to end our marriage. Instead of begging or explaining, I simply replied, "I respect your decision." Then I did something that changed everything. I canceled the next tuition payment from the freelance account. For the first time in 4 years, Jessica would discover where the money truly came from. At first, she went silent for 18 hours. Then the storm began. Her friend Miranda called me, accusing me of financial abuse and pettiness. According to her, Jessica was crying and saying I had trapped her. But all I had done was work myself to the bone and pay for everything she needed while she dismissed me over internet posts. The following day, Jessica sent me a long message saying she was disappointed in my attitude and that I clearly didn't value her career. She claimed she needed space to reevaluate our marriage but would consider counseling if I showed growth. I replied calmly again, "Understood. Take all the time you need." What she didn't realize was that tuition was due in 3 days, $29,000 for the semester. Without my freelance payments, the school would soon alert her. And right on schedule, on the 3rd morning, Jessica called me for the first time since ending things. Her voice trembled as she explained that the bursar's office had contacted her about a declined payment. That's when I finally revealed the truth. I told her my salary was $95,000, which after taxes left around $70,000. I broke down our expenses, rent, utilities, food, insurance, car payments, which consumed nearly all of it. "Do you really think I was covering $58,000 a year out of the few thousand left over?" I asked. Silence hung on the line before she finally whispered, "But you've been paying it." I corrected her. I had been paying from my freelance account, the same freelance work I talked about on Reddit, the same work she claimed disgusted her. And in that moment, for the first time in 4 years, Jessica realized she never once asked how I was managing it. She had simply benefited without question. Her panic was immediate. Calls, texts, please began pouring in. You can't do this. I'll lose my spot. Please answer. This is insane. Her friend Miranda chimed in again, saying I was ruining Jessica's life over a Reddit post. I responded once, firmly. She ended our marriage over posts about the job that paid for her education. Actions have consequences. Then came a call from her mother, Catherine, who rarely spoke to me. She accused me of manipulation and demanded I pay because I was still her husband. I replied calmly again. She said we're done. I'm respecting her wishes. Hours before the payment deadline, Jessica showed up at our apartment, tears streaming down her face, apologizing for overreacting. She begged me to make the payment, promised we could work through it. But I could see through her panic. She wanted security, not reconciliation. For 4 years, I had killed myself working 80 hours a week to pay for her dream, and she threw it away over a joke on Reddit. Now she wanted to crawl back only because her future was at risk. And for the first time, I stood firm and said no. After that day, Jessica's parents stepped in and covered the missed tuition with a home equity loan. But their help came with a price. Catherine, her mother, called me and unleashed a storm of insults, labeling me a pathetic excuse for a man who had abandoned his responsibilities. But I knew the truth. 4 years of tuition payments worth $174,000 had come from me, not them. And while they took out a loan, I already had documentation to prove every penny I had sacrificed. Jessica, meanwhile, moved back into her parents' home and turned to social media, painting herself as a brave woman escaping financial abuse. Her friends lined up in the comments, praising her for finding strength and calling me a narcissist. I chose silence at first, knowing that receipts spoke louder than words. But then Jessica made her boldest mistake yet. She filed for spousal support, claiming that I had controlled all finances and that she deserved $3,000 a month to maintain the lifestyle she was accustomed to. When my lawyer, Brian, read the demand, he nearly laughed out loud. I showed him the proof, every tuition payment, every living expense paid solely by me. With that information, we filed a counterclaim asking for half of the tuition I had already covered during the marriage, $87,000. Jessica's lawyer quickly tried to withdraw her claim once they realized how badly the evidence could turn against her. In the end, we agreed to a clean divorce, no spousal support, no reimbursement, just a total separation of finances and futures. She would carry her debts alone from that day forward. 2 weeks into the separation, Jessica tried another angle. I received a call from American Express about unusual charges. In just 2 days, she had spent $8,000 on designer clothes, spa treatments, and fancy dinners using the credit card I had once given her as an authorized user. I immediately canceled the card and disputed every charge after our separation date. When Jessica called screaming, accusing me of financial abuse for cutting off her essentials, I simply replied, Louis Vuitton is not an essential. She went back to social media, claiming I was making her homeless and starving. But this time I had enough. I posted my own receipts online, detailing the $174,000 in tuition paid, the 4 years of living expenses covered, the 80-hour workweeks, and the luxury charges she had tried to slip through after ending our marriage. The public opinion flipped overnight. Her friends fell silent, and medical students commented in disbelief, saying she had fumbled a full ride over memes. But the true consequences hit harder than social media. Her parents made it clear that their financial help was a loan, not a gift, and they began charging her 6% interest. On top of that, because I had paid tuition directly from my freelance business account without structuring it as a loan, the IRS considered it gifted income. Jessica now faced an additional $50,000 to $60,000 in taxes, on top of her existing debts. When her lawyer realized this, he quickly pushed for a clean divorce with no further demands. Jessica, in desperation, asked to meet me in person without lawyers. I agreed but recorded the conversation legally. She arrived looking hollow, dark circles under her eyes, weight loss, stress carved into her face. With shaking hands, she whispered that she had made a mistake, that she didn't know about the freelancing, that she had been overwhelmed by school and influenced by Miranda. I listened quietly until she finally asked if we could rebuild our marriage. I told her the truth, that I had loved the version of her who appreciated sacrifice, who would have at least asked how we afforded things, who wouldn't have thrown away a marriage over a joke on Reddit. But that woman never existed. She had only existed in my imagination. When she showed me her loan paperwork, over $300,000 in combined debt, I simply shook my head. She begged me to help, to share the burden, to stand beside her once again. My final words to her were simple. That love already paid for 3 years of your education. That bank is closed. She signed the divorce papers that same day. Months later, the divorce was finalized. Jessica entered residency with more than $300,000 of debt and no dermatology placement, only internal medicine, a less competitive program that didn't match her original dream. The financial stress and declining grades had taken their toll. Her parents charged her interest, the IRS added penalties, and she found herself crushed under a mountain of debt. She tried dating again, but word spread among medical students that she had left a husband who paid her entire tuition over social media posts. They even turned it into a saying at her school, "Don't pull a Peterson." Meanwhile, my life changed for the better. Without the financial burden of covering tuition, my freelance business grew stronger. I was promoted to senior architect, took my first vacation in 4 years, and began dating someone new, a software engineer who appreciated my work, laughed at my Reddit posts, and built her own future without expecting me to destroy myself for hers. For the first time in years, I felt peaceful, free from the weight of thankless sacrifice. Every now and then, Jessica tried to sneak back into my world. Once, she even accidentally liked one of my Reddit posts from her throwaway account before deleting it in embarrassment. But none of that mattered anymore. She had made her choice, and I had finally learned the value of walking away. When I look at my savings now, I realize that $174,000 could have put me halfway to retirement. But strangely, I don't regret it, because that money bought me something far more valuable, the truth. And if there's one lesson I hold on to now, it's this: you can put a price on debt, but you cannot put a price on peace. And at long last, I finally have peace.